Welcome to the tutorial on Revit and Rhino and the translation between one and the other. I'm going to do the kind of a sample of the entire design process to make sure that you're following through. I previously have done a tutorial based on using generative AI to ideate in the early design phase. So I'll take the work that I've done in that tutorial and build on it in this one to help us accomplish something that's a little bit more well developed based on those early concept models in the form of images. So we'll start here in Rhino. I'm going to just share my screen here and go ahead and look at my Rhino file. I have this sitemap that Julian created for us. Really grateful for that work, Julian. Thank you for the effort in putting this together for us. I've gone ahead and turned on all the layers so we have everything showing. And it's a great model. Right, so we have a lot of different information in it. One of the things that's great about it is it has this embedded satellite image set here, which we have here. And if we look, I think one of these is locked. So if I just hit Control-Shift-L, that's to see about selecting unlocking objects. So I can say Control-A on the keyboard. That selects all objects, and then I now have everything unlocked. And that's important because I'm interested in this site next to the arena here, this site, this elongated site next to this larger empty field. I think that there's some people maybe working in this spot, but I don't know that there's anyone working in this spot right now. So I'm going to propose my my recreation center there. And so I'm just thinking about this greater site as my site location. A couple of reasons why I like the site is that it allows for southern views in the summertime. As you can see, there's trees here, but as we go further north on the site, there's no trees. And so in the wintertime, we get nice southern light into this into those southern facing facade windows. And then also it's quite nicely centrally located, yet it's on a back road. I'd prefer that it was on a more arterial main road, but I think we'll make a compromise in this case. It's close to the Bible Institute and it's close to the fairgrounds. And so that kind of location seems to be an interesting one. So if we go into 3D view, you can see that this site here has this nice thickened site plan model. What we're going to want to do here is, because we already have this file, Julian already has this file, we want to cut this down to surround our site only. So I have this box that I've created that's centrally located on that site location. If we come here, you can see that it basically goes 2 blocks away in every direction, which is nice because we'll have plenty of context model, and at the same time, it won't be too unwieldy in terms of our file size and such. So what I think I'll do here is I'll probably just use that as a trimming mechanism, and I'll use that extrusion to trim. And I'm going to just select everything that I can get my hands on as close as I can to that box. And it's going to just going to start trimming all those objects. And just so that I have a really good handle on things, I'll do that in every direction. And I'll probably zoom in as I get things that are moving, deleting, or being trimmed away. So here it is, splitting and trimming. I'm going to do that again in this direction. And you'll notice that I'm using the selection with the dashed line. If you select from top left to bottom right, you get a solid line. The other way, you get a dashed line. And basically, it's an exclusionary selection process or an inclusionary selection process. This includes anything it touches. This only includes things that are fully enclosed in it. So I can use that to actually delete objects that are not that are outside of those things. With this one, I want to do the same. I'm going to choose that. And it's going to basically take any contour lines that cut through there or anything else that cuts through there and delete those. Once I feel like I've got pretty much everything that's far away that's connected, I'll do the same closer in. think I'll save that Bible Institute because that's kind of an important building. But I will, okay, and so that I've just ended that trim command. It looks like it did a pretty good job. Maybe that one right there would be a good one to do. So I use that extrusion to cut that. Put that lot line. I'm gonna leave that Bible Institute. I will cut these contours. I'm gonna cut that contour and that contour. And then the rest I can just delete, right? I can just come in here and just say delete. I don't really need any of that. Just want to make sure I'm not getting any of that information I need. But I can just delete all that background noise. It's gonna just make my file just way too big. Cool. Okay, so there we go. Now we've got a nice nice site plan that's a little bit more clean and simple. I'm going to take and delete this box, or maybe I'll just put on its own new reference layer, like a reference cut, like anything, any geometry I use to cut. And I can just say change objects layer and turn that layer off. So now we can see from a perspective what's going on here. We have that, we can delete this. And now you can see what we're dealing with. We've got all of our context information and the Bible Institute, and then this thing. We're going to want to make sure that this line is registering on our site, right? Because we see that a lot of the information is kind of above, like all those contour lines are above and that kind of thing. We don't necessarily want the duplication of that information. Those are kind of confusing things. So I can just see some of those things that are floating and I can try and delete those things, or I can try and project those. So we have these, let's turn off the 10-foot contours and the 5-foot contours and just see what the 2-foot contours look like. 2-foot, 5-foot, 10-foot. So there's a duplication to the 5 and 10. We have those 10 foots, 5 foots, 2 foots. So I think it's those 5-foot contours that are up above, not directly on the ground plane. So I'm going to take those, select objects on the layer, and I'm going to say project, and then I'm going to select the surface that I want to project onto, and now we've moved those down to the surface, which is great. So now we have those 10-foot contours, 5-foot contours, and 2-foot contours. Let's see about how well those interact. Yeah. So if I were going to do this again, I think I would probably do them in intervals that align, so that I don't have, you see how the 5-foot contours don't align with those 2-foot contours. I would probably do like 1.5 foot or whatever divisor you need in order to make sure that you get that. So maybe it's like 3 and 6 and 12, or yeah, 9, 12. Yeah, so that might work. Actually, 3, 6, 9, 12 contours might be a good one to go with, or 1, 3, that might work well. Okay, so we've got that kind of squared away. And so with this one, you probably want to increase that that line weight there for the 10-foot contour. So let's go over here and we want to say print width. Default, we want to change that to like 1, or not a 1, but like a 0.5 or something like that. And we can check that with the print preview being turned on, and it will kind of show us what's going on. So now we can see that line has a thickness to it that the others don't. Let's see what that's the 2-foot contours. Let's make sure those are projected as well, because it looks like those might be a little bit above. 2-foot contours, select objects, and project. Okay. Now we have all those projected. Cool. Now we'll want to do the same thing with this line, because this line is a pretty important line showing the boundary of the demolition derby. And that becomes important because it kind of bounds our site on this backside here. So I'm going to just do the same thing. I'm just going to project that onto there. Now it's on the surface there, and we can actually take this and extrude it because it does have some kind of a site boundary. A site a vertical kind of aspect to it. So let's just assume it's a 6-foot fence. So there we go. We have a 6-foot fence there, and I'm not sure. Like if we come over to Google Maps, let me just look at it here real quick. I don't remember what it looks like, and I don't have that information here. But let's see if we can find it. Here's the closest street view. Let's just look at what that fence looks like in terms of a street view. Looks like a 6-foot fence to me. And we also have this other fence there that's pretty nice. But we're gonna ignore that fence. Okay. So now we have this this location here. And this line here is not an actual line. So we can actually take and turn off the ISO curves, show ISO curves. And we can do that actually for all of these things. And now we won't have those distracting ISO curves kind of getting in the way. We still don't have these roads being on the pathway. So let's make sure that those are selected and projected. Now those road curves are on that surface, which is pretty nice. We can kind of get a sense for what's going on there. And in fact, we can probably take those road curves, select objects, and we can probably extrude those by like 6 inches or something like that. 8 inches, let's say, for a nice curve height. And then we can probably actually use those road. And actually, that was on the building layer. We need to make sure we're using our current layer. So we're going to select those road curves. I'm going to group those together. And now I'm going to offset 8 inches. And then I can use, I can select those road objects again and deselect those curves. Wait. Oh. Cool. There we go. Now I can probably trim the surface or split the surface using these curves. Oops, let's see. Select road objects and deselect the group. Okay. Now I'm going to split. That's the cutting object. Object to cut. It's going to be this one. Let's see. I'm going to hide that. Okay, now I can select those roads without any. I'm going to group that. Okay, now I can split. Select object to split. That's this surface. Select the cutting object. That's these surfaces. And now let's see if it worked. Yeah, I think it worked. So if we select this, that's a surface by itself, and we can move that down 8 inches. And that will be nice because it will provide a sense of 3-dimensionality to our floor plan, our plan, which is going to be useful in like a section cut, right? So I know I'm getting a little bit too in the weeds here, but I think that these are little details that go a long way for helping us understand what's going on. We could do the same process for sidewalks. You know, if we felt like there were areas that we wanted to show sidewalks, which I think most of these areas don't have sidewalks, so it doesn't really matter. But okay, so now we have a basic site model figured out. Let's go to this inspiration. stuff. And let's just, I have this PNG that I made in Photoshop. And let's just go ahead and download that real quick as a reference. Taking a long time. We'll go ahead and get started on this model in the meantime. Essentially, what I want to do is I probably want to model, like get a sense of these trees. So I can just use cylinders to kind of help me do that. I'm going to turn off my object snap settings for now, just so that I can work fluidly without having things snapping to other things. Okay. There's another, looks like there's one right there. One right there. I'm not sure how. Where are those cylinders going? Yeah, they're there right there. I think I need to turn down the transparency of these things. So I'm going to go to the layers panel and just look at this transparency. And I have, oh yeah, here we go. This transparency, I want to turn that down to like 50% or something like that. Even 75%, just so that we're getting a better sense of those tree canopies in relationship to where I think they are. Okay, and then this is a big one. And there looks like to be a second one there. Maybe a small one there. It's hard to tell what's shadow and what's actual tree sometimes. The reason I want the trees is because if we can save trees, we want to. And then also full-grown trees take a long time to develop. And so we want to try and save those trees if possible. Okay, so there's a basic understanding of the trees. Maybe I might just take this triangle, this one here, and just like duplicate it across. Okay, oops. And I can lock those satellite views again now because I'm pretty good with that. And whoops. I'll take these and just duplicate those into the depths here. Oops. And I'm going to just do a quick rotation of that and move those over. So we have kind of like a stand of trees there. And I'll take some random ones and copy those up. So now we have kind of a stand of trees. It's representative there. And later I can go back and create vertical, some more specific trees. We can use Enscape or Twinmotion to give us some trees that are a little more developed if we want, but it may be a little distracting. It might be better to just have something a little more abstract. Anyway, so okay, we've got our trees in there. Now we can start thinking about the model. We've got this this image that doesn't seem to download. Man, internet's bad today. But I'm just going to go ahead and draw. I'm going to use that reference that I found of the 8-foot by 14-foot greenhouse as a kind of just a reference thing. So I'm going to just do that 8-foot by 14-foot. So there you can see how small that is. It's really, really tiny, especially on the site. But if we start with scale, it's going to help us just understand what we're getting at. So I'm going to re-enable my object snap settings and just duplicate that and then make the same copy again. So now we have a smaller but interesting size. I think I'll probably duplicate that one more time or 2 more times to make a total of 4. And that seems like it might be about the right size. I do like elongating the southern base. I think that's important. And there we go. Maybe that'll work. Wow, I'm really having a hard time with that. download. So I like this size for some community thing. Maybe I'll get rid of one of these. That feels about golden ratio to me, something. You know, if we that's kind of the goal. I think that's a golden ratio block right there. So if we do that same thing, oh, maybe it was more like that. Yeah, there we go. It's pretty golden ratio there. Maybe we have to multiply that by 2. I don't know. If I just think about how many people or tables can fit underneath there, that's a lot. So, but maybe not so many in the context of this big fair. Maybe it's too big right now. Let's try that for starters. And then we'll do maybe some facility. Let's stick with that golden ratio. And let's say that's the facility there. Kind of thing. Yeah, let's just say that. So if I go in here, these are not in relationship to that ground plane, and I need them to be, basically they need to kind of be up at that level that is the ground plane. So I'm just gonna like look at it in multiple viewpoints at the same time, zoom in on it here, understand it in relationship to that ground plane. Maybe it's a bit high. Nope, not big high, a bit high. So now it's a bit low. Cool. I think that's probably pretty good. So now that I've got that, I can just go about, oh, it's not quite through the floor. So let's just bring that up by like a foot, 1 foot. And now we can hopefully see, yeah, so now it's like kind of like just out the ground plane, maybe a little bit floating. Yeah, just a little bit floating. Oh, and we have this error in terms of these things not being actually where they need to be. So I'm going to take these and move them. Okay, so I've got that. Now I need to basically model out this these little canopies. I'm just going to make the assumption that we've got a rectangular hole on the corner, and it's going to be like 1 inch square. Or yeah, that seems like about right, 1 inch square. And I assume that that's probably like 9 feet, but let's just say that we can extend it to be 10. Maybe we put this thing on stilts or something for 10 feet. So now I can just get those and duplicate those across. Maybe we want a beefier structure, but it might be okay. Do that, I don't know. This is under the premise that we're going to be using at Home Depot a gazebo, which seems a little crazy, but it might be a good place to start. Eventually, you might replace this canopy with something else. I'm going to group those. And then we have some kind of a tent that's on top of that. So I think I'll just take this base rectangle and duplicate it up to the top. I think what I'll do is I'll make that into a surface, and then I'll split that surface, split face, and we're going to choose the midpoint. That didn't work. Do it one more time. Okay, I think maybe let's try this one more time. Split face. That's my face I'm splitting. Start of the polyline, end of the polyline. Done. Ah, there we go. So now I can take that edge that's split there and just pull it up to give me that kind of greenhouse situation. And I can just loft these ends. And that's a basic greenhouse structure, and it might do. I think we would probably, if we didn't have those glass panels in, we'd probably have to reinforce um, these struts here. I might just take this one of these poly surfaces and copy it in place because that was a group, right? So I want to just take that one. And then I'm just going to rotate that on a 45. There we go. And I'm going to adjust the gumball. Let's see. Try again. Come on. Adjust the gumball from world to object. And now we'll go vertical up. That's not 45. Is it 45? I can't tell if it's 45. There's 45. There we go. Go back to the gumball, turn it to align to C plane or to object, and we'll just do this. And then now we'll go back to aligning it to object, and it will orient that other direction. And we should be able to get. Nope. So I'm just gonna select that, that bottom face and select the top face. There we go. And I'll just pull. Maybe I'll just get scale. The midpoint. The endpoint here and just scale that in. Oops, I want to scale 1D. That's what I want to do. So I'm gonna select. I'm just I'm getting too into the weeds here, but I think it might be useful to have this kind of detail in here. You know, if we look back at the greenhouse, I think it's got intermediary struts and such, which are kind of useful. It's got horizontals. This looks like it might be thicker than 1 inch. Probably like 1.5 inches or even 2 inches. We could go on the bigger side here with that. It has a few lateral bracings at the corners. Anyway, I think we're getting into the weeds too much here. I think I want to just take this and just duplicate it. Let me get those. Scale 1D midpoint. Okay. I'm going to pull this edge curve down. to create a surface. Well, let's just say this is like going a little thicker since we looked at the thing. Let's say 2 inches. There we go. It's got, oops, let's see, we want to extrude that, not just, so 2 inches. Now we've got that surface and we can say offset surface. And flip it so it's internal and just say distance 2 inches. And now we have, oh, that created a solid thing. Okay, so we want to undo that. Gonna select that curve again, try again here. 2 inches down. And we're gonna delete that face and delete that face. Now we can take that and say offset surface. Internally, distance 2 inches. Now we have that frame. Just starting to give us something a little bit more substantial. We can do the same with this, where we can say that's going to be, we'll do it on both sides here at the same time. Gumball. Maybe it won't let us do that with multiple objects. We can say offset surface or offset or extrude. Sorry, we want to say extrude. And there we go. Now it's going to be a perpendicular. If we were careful, we would have done a pitch to the roof that was a 45 pitch, so we got really nice clean stuff. And we probably should actually do that if we're going to be taking this seriously. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to take this edge and I'm going to rotate 3D. I'll choose this edge here to be my rotation axis. And I'm going to say copy, yes. And I'm going to rotate that 45 degrees. Oops, that's a negative 45. We'll do the same this other direction. Rotate 3D, start of axis there. Oops. $45 degrees. Beautiful. Now we have a nice ability to kind of make sure that that's where we want it to be. I'm going to take this roof ledge and just duplicate that to the intersection of those. Now we can take that roof edge and move it up to there. And we'll have to remake these end triangles, but that's not a big deal. Just loft in. Oops. We'll take that polysurface edge and that polysurface edge. Do that. We can just copy this down. Copy. For those of you who know how to Rhino model, this is no big deal, but I know some of you have mentioned that you still struggle with this. So I want to go through this. You can always skip forward if you feel like that this is overkill and not necessary. I would say for anyone who's used Rhino extensively or at all would probably find this pretty boring. But for those of you who have not, it will be helpful, I think. So we're going to say extrude, curve, and now we have a clean thing, and that will be 2 inches. And we can take that surface, and we can say offset surface, and distance 2 inches. I'm in feet right now, so we don't want to flip it. So there we go. Now we have that frame. We can take this frame and just copy it across the entire thing. And we'll just mirror this. Mirror across this end cap. Beautiful. Got the simple frame. It's not so interesting by itself, but I think it will be cool to see how that comes out as a multiplicity of these objects together. We'll want one at the ridge as well. So maybe I'll just copy this one. Oh, I can't do that. I can rotate it. Or maybe it's easiest if I just do it up here at this ridge. And if I just say extrude curve direction 2 inches. Now we can take that extrusion and offset surface, flip it. There we go. Now we've got that frame. And then we have these elements that are these surfaces, and we can give those a material. Let's just change the material to be glass. And we can select that material by choosing an import from the material library, glass, clear glass. There we go. And so now when we do a rendering, we'll see the frame being separated. And we want to do that before we copy these across, because it will be a pain to do that later. And we might even start thinking about making some layers based on material. So I think what I'll do is I'll make a new layer called site, and I'm gonna actually take all these and put those in the site folder. That way I can just turn off that site folder. We can't do that because we have the current layers in the site folder. Let's see if we just make a new layer, and let's make that the current layer. Now we can turn off the site. Now it's all off, but we don't want it all off because we want to be able to take make a new layer and call this metal frame. New layer called glass, and we'll do another layer called wood. So we'll take these components, these frame components, and transfer those to the metal frame layer, change objects layer, and I'll turn that off so we know what we've got. And now we can take these surfaces and add those to the glass layer, change objects layer, turn that off. Don't know why that. Wow, that's weird. Oh, I think I selected the landscape. What is that? Oh, these are the plots of land. Okay, so this one's on the topography layer. This one's on the glass layer. We need to change that back to the site topography layer. Topography. Okay, good. So now I can turn those. Let's see. Turn off glass. Still have that one end cap there. Change objects layer. Okay, good. This one last frame, metal frame, change objects layer. And we have this other too small frame here. We'll just change that object layer too. And then these, let's see, what is that? That's a frame as well. Change that objects layer to the frame. And then these I would consider to be reference layers, and I'll pull that reference layer out of the site layer structure, and I'll add those, change objects layer. Okay, good. So now I have a pretty clean separation of layers, and I can turn the frame on and the glass on. And if I select those objects, select objects, and then also select those objects, now I have the glass and the frame, and I can just group that, Control G to group. And now I can array. I might actually want to do I might want to do a block. And I'll just, so I just type in block and then create this block, and then I can go back in and edit one of these and it will adjust everything. So I'm gonna just say greenhouse. Well, I can even add a hyperlink. So I'm gonna do that. I'll add this hyperlink. So now we have that as a block. And it will be a lot easier to manipulate it later. For example, I'll want to go back and change those 1-inch tubes to 2-inch tubes later. But now I can just array this block. And I can say in the X direction we want 4, and in the Y direction we want 4. And then in the Z direction we want 1. Wait, now I have this greenhouse. It's a repetitive greenhouse, and I'm going to say that I would want to eliminate these inner support structures and put a support beam across there to kind of deal with that. But for now, I think that's a perfect thing. We have some kind of a problem with something or other happening here. Not exactly sure what it is. Oh, I think I see what's happening. So we're going to undo that array and be a little more careful about this next time. So we're going to shade this view, and we're going to go array 4, 4, 1. I'm going to select this, and for some reason there's an inconsistency in the model. We're just going to have to deal with that. For now, we can come back and fix that later. But now, for now, we're just going to deal with that inconsistency. And then one of the things that I thought was interesting about this idea was protecting from prevailing winds. And I don't know exactly which way the prevailing winds are, but if we look back at the the map here, we have this kind of corridor here that might allow for wind to come through. And so I'm imagining that the prevailing winds, it's kind of boxed by these other 2 stands of trees. I'm imagining the prevailing winds are going to work this way. So that's where I'm going to implement that, that design. I can't get that to load this time. I'll just go back to one of the other inspirations. We're gonna just kind of go back to some of these earlier inspirations. So here's another example of what we're talking about. This is maybe a better one, where we're just thinking about the wood underneath, the glazing to show the structure, wood on the front facade, and then this glazing on the front side. So we'll just show that here by including some glazing in, not in our model, but sorry, not in the block, but we'll just include it. So here we have that curve, and we can just extrude curve. We'll just pop that up. Yeah, see, I think you can see there's some kind of funkiness happening with my model, but I can just fudge it for now. So I'm going to put that on the glass layer, change objects layer. Now it's on the glass layer. We want to have the glass layer to have a specific material. We're going to change that from the default to the clear glass, and then hit OK. Now, when we go to rendered view, that's already the glass, so we want it to be. We can take that and say copy, And we'll just use this information here. I have a feeling this is gonna be a really long tutorial. I don't know, hopefully not. Then what we'll do is so that gives us that glass on that one side. And then we can come back and just give ourselves that wood, the glazing above. And maybe we just do this by taking these panels and duplicating those. And then I'll take that and scale those down. Let's just take those top edges and pull them down. Okay, I'll do a frame around this. I'm just gonna use a bounding box actually. Bounding box. And delete that face and that face, and we still have that frame. And we'd say offset surface with that. Now we have this 2-inch frame there. We need this glass though. Okay, so that's not thick enough. So we need that to be expanded. We'll use this red. We're gonna pull that away from the other piece so they're not intersecting. Beautiful. Okay, so there's that. That frame would want to be proud of the other frame. It could attach. That would be smart if it was attaching there, but not intersecting. So there we have that, and we'll want to do something similar here, but this we're going to be using a wood material. So I think what I'll do is I'll just take this frame and just get this frame to go in the other direction. And we'll see what we can get here. Maybe it needs to be proud as well. So we'll adjust that to be on that outside there. I don't know why these models are not clean. Let's get them, see if we can get them clean. Obviously, I'm rushing to model, so that my model's not very clean, but I'm not sure why it's not so clean. And then I'm going to take and isolate, or maybe I'll select inverse and lock. So I use this one here, and I'll just do invert and lock. And now I can take this edge and pull it down. Or actually, you know what? Now that I'm seeing this, I think I want a frame at both locations. I'm going to copy, take that, and duplicate it. And now I can take this and scale 1D. And I'll go in to top view, front view. I guess we go right here. Stop. Okay, so now we have those two frames. I don't know why they're canted on the angle. It's really weird. Yeah, I think I was just moving too fast. And then we're thinking about these being wooden, some kind of a wooden frame. So we want some wood material in here. That means this frames need to get a little bit beefier. And I'm not. Let's rotate these 3D just to get them a little more clean here. There we go. Now we've got a pretty straight frame, much more straight than it was before. Okay, so then we want a surface here. We're going to take this edge, that edge, and this edge, and we'll use those four edges to create a surface out of. So now we can put that, so set that surface into that frame. I'm going to copy that across to this other frame down here. So, and then we can put this on the wood layer. Change objects layer to wood, and I'm going to change the material of the wood layer to a wood. And we want that to be like a lighter wood. Let's say white oak. Let's say white oak. Oak. Red. We'll just use the oak. It's a little dark. I don't know if I want that. Some harsh shadows going on here. If we go into the sun settings and we change the time of day, that will give us a little less harsh lighting, hopefully. Not giving us, oh, there we go. There we go. Now we can actually see our wood grain. It's a bad material. You'll want to adjust that in whatever software you're using. But there you can start to get a sense of that, of what we're talking about. And then we can do the same thing with this wooden slat system that I was thinking about inside of here. I think what I'll do is I'll just take these elements here and duplicate those on the 90 and bring them down inside. And I can actually probably get these wood slats modeled pretty nice and easy. I was thinking I might do it with material information, but I think it might be nicer to do this. Okay, I'm going to group those, and then do I do this as another block? Maybe what I do is I make 4. So I just take this, I'm going to isolate these and turn off my site layer, turn off my metal frame, which is locked, I guess, turn off my glass frame. Now I've got these wood wood slat pieces. If I just take those, and I copy those across, and I move those one or two away from themselves. Maybe that's enough. One. That starts to give us a nice light on the ground plane. Maybe we want more light to come in, so two away. And if we make this into our block, we'll be able to adjust spacing a lot. We'll have a lot of control over spacing. So this is going to be wood slat. So now we can copy that over itself, or actually we can just array it. I'll start by taking this dimension here and making that a reference element there. So we can just do the array. Array number in, if I go top view, it's going to be y, the y-axis. And so we'll have 0 or 1 in the x-axis. And we'll do like 40 in the y-axis, and then 1 in the z-axis. And now it's asking for spacing. And so we want to go into the 3D view. And we're going to do that's going to get a repeat of things. Let's do it one more time. X-axis 1, y-axis 40, z-axis 1. Doing this one more time. X-axis 1, z-axis 40. Cool. Yeah, here we go. This is what I want. I don't want those there to be overlap. So I'll do this again. So 1, 41. I'm gonna think about this here. Maybe we just have to deal with that overlap, and that's okay. It's not so big of a deal because it's a block. So this geometry is not actually multiplied over itself. And that's not all we need. So we can probably just take this and copy it across itself. But this is pretty lightweight because of it being a block. So I don't feel bad about having duplicates in here. Okay. I think that adds a lot of warmth to the thing. So let's turn the glass back on, turn the frame back on, and we should have, there's our wood frame as well. So now we have that kind of structure that was based on this kind of idea here. The next question is, what is it exactly that happens beyond that? And that's something that I'm not exactly sure of, but I do know that we want, so if I look back at my top view, I think we have our references turned off. Okay, there we go. This wants to be I'm gonna unlock everything. I think we have a bunch of locked things. I'm gonna unlock that and move that object to the reference folder, turn back off my site plan. And now we can kind of get a sense of this. And I'm imagining that this space is a little bit taller. So just doing a shade structure thing there. Maybe it's like we don't want it to be preferencing the west face, because that west face is the summer heat, that's the hot summer sun. We might be interested in having it clear story towards the south, which could be nice. And then now we have to think about what's happening inside of here. Let's just imagine that some of this is storage. So like maybe there's maybe that could be interesting. So let's look at it from plan again and just think about it in plan. So imagine that we want this to have a storage component. Maybe the storage component happens on that west side so that we don't have to worry about that west exposure. And then maybe we have garage doors here and here. And then maybe we can build in 2 bathrooms. So that would be like an 8-foot bathroom by 8 foot. That's a pretty big bathroom. You can get bathrooms smaller than that, but those would be ample ADA compliant bathrooms. I think you can actually get it in 6 feet. Let's do that. If I remember right, 6 feet square is a good ADA bathroom. So we have our ADA bathrooms here. And then we have our storage here for, I don't know, lawn darts or cornholes or whatever it is, some recreational activity stuff here. And then we have our bathrooms there. And then this is maybe like a big open space with maybe a front desk or something like that. So then we have to say, how is this happening? And we're gonna hide that. We've got those 2. Gonna hide that thing. We got these 2 here. Well, I just hid those as well. Excellent. I'm gonna move these up and then pull these out to the right location, roughly. So essentially I need like an outside wall, and then these 2 interior walls. And this wants to have some wall thickness to it, right? So you got to think about that wall thickness. So we're going to offset it by 8 inches just to be clean. And we'll do the same here inside, another 8 inches. 8-inch walls are pretty thick, maybe a little bit overkill, but it'll do the trick. Now we can take this envelope and offset that by 8 inches. So now we have kind of like a nice understanding of where those bathrooms reside. And then we'll want to take and do the same thing here. Intersection, offset, or we can even just extrude that 8 inches. And that gives us, I'll just do the border. Actually, we can use that. So we'll take that and that and that, and offset that up through the roof. So that we can trim it. Right? So we're going to just trim, select cutting objects, trim those. And then for these, we want, we can probably offset, this seems like a pretty big space, so we can probably offset this surface, and we'll want to take that bottom out so that we don't have a solid surface. So we can say offset surface, flip the direction, distance 8 inches. There we go. And now we're gonna have this box that has wall thicknesses to it. Does that make sense? Yeah. We're not showing any of the windows at this point or any of the door entrances or anything like that. And maybe we want to take this. Oh yeah, we want to cap that. Cap that. This one doesn't have enclosure. We're going to say loft. Join. No, cap. It might let us. Yeah, it closed that. So now we have some nice close geometry. We can take this surface and move it down 8 inches. Now we're golden. We've got like this nice little structure. It's kind of hidden back there. We don't have to like see it so much. It's giving us a nice clear story. Probably want to kind of hide, but anyway, so we've got this little structure here. Now I'm going to talk to you about transferring to Revit. So I appreciate your patience while I modeled this thing. I just know there was some students who were feeling a little bit raw in terms of Revit. So rendering, yeah, we're going to just do the rendering here. I think this wants to be like a black metal panel or something like that. I don't know the metal frame. We'll make a new layer. Metal. And we'll just choose a material there, and let's see if we can get a corrugated metal. Mesh, polished, satin, textured, burnished. Let's try textured. Diamond plated, cast iron, hammered, galvanized steel. No, we're not seeing what we want. Corten, brushed, polished. Let's see if we can just find standing seam or metal vents, metal mesh. Galvanized steel. We might have to get another material for this. So for now, we'll just make it a black color with a texture in it. So I'm gonna make a new custom material. This is mostly just for me to kind of get a sense of what's happening with this. We're gonna add a texture to the color. We want to use what types? Let's see the types here. Okay. Grid texture. That's the one we want, grid. I think we can use this. So here it gives us those grids. We want to adjust that grid texture, yeah. So we can choose color 1, color 2. There should be, oh yeah, here we maybe clamping cells. There's a way, there's another one. Maybe we need to find another one to use. Hatch bump texture. That's not what we want. Okay. Grid. Location, physical sky. Sample dot pattern. No, texture, tile. Turbulent, let's try tile. Okay, maybe that's not what we want either. Let's try wood. Let's try something else. Let's make a new, I think there's a wood slat. Yeah, dark slate. We don't want slate. What we want is we want a texture that's going to give us something. I want to cool ceiling tile, hardscape, gravel, stones, wood panel. We want something that has a linear thing. Well, maybe we're not going to get there right now. So let's just set that for a custom panel. Color. We'll do like a dark gray, I think. With that texture. Okay. Anyway, so we've got a basic structure here. Now that we have this, we can save this file, save as. We want to have it in our folder. I've got this file, Firefly demo folder. I'm going to use the naming convention I like to use, which is the date 11/7. And then I'm going to say design iteration, or like design 01, something like that. I'll save it as a 7, Rhino 7 model, just so that you guys can use it if you don't have Rhino 8. Hit save. Now I've got a Rhino 7 model saved there.